Chapter 9. The distance between Zara and Kofi was no longer just about geography, it was about expectations, career ambitions, and the weight of family obligations. Kofi's parents have finally voiced their concerns, not about Zara as a person, but about her being Nigerian. Cultural traditions ran deep, and though Ghana and Nigeria were neighbors, the subtle differences in values and customs became points of contention. Kofi sat in his Accra office staring at the message from his mother. Son, we love you, but you must think of your heritage. Marry someone who understands our ways. He sighed, running a hand over his face. It wasn't that his parents disliked Zara, they just feared what they didn't know. He had tried explaining that love didn't have borders, but years of tradition weren't easy to shake. Meanwhile, Zara faced her own pressures. At work, she was being considered for a promotion, one that required relocating to South Africa for a year. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, but it meant leaving everything behind, including Kofi. That evening, they met at their favorite beachside restaurant in Lagos. The waves crashed in rhythmic bursts, but the air between them was tense. I got the promotion, Zara said, watching Kofi carefully. His jaw tightened. That's great news. When do you leave? 2 months. A long silence stretched between them. And us? Kofi finally asked. Zara swallowed. I don't know, Kofi. I love you, but I also love my dreams. Can we make both work? His fingers tapped against the table. I want to say yes, but love needs more than just hope, Zara. It needs a plan. Chapter 10. Kofi flew back to Accra the next morning, needing space to think. His mind was a battlefield, his love for Zara against the pull of his obligations. His father sat him down that evening, his voice calm but firm. Marriage isn't just about love, son. It's about family, values, and compromise. Do you think Zara will embrace our traditions? Will she leave her career for you if necessary? Kofi exhaled. Why does she have to leave her career? Why can't we find balance? His father studied him before nodding. Then ask yourself, Kofi, are you willing to compromise too? In Lagos, Zara spoke with her mentor, a senior journalist, who had once faced a similar dilemma. You can have love and a career. Zara. But love is about sacrifice. Are you ready to make one? Or will you ask him to make it for you? The answer wasn't simple, and as the days passed, Zara and Kofi both realized they stood at a crossroads. They had to choose, not just each other, but the version of life they could live together. The baobab tree whispered in the wind, its roots deep, but its branches stretching far. Would they stay grounded, or would they reach toward different skies? Chapter 11. The days stretched into weeks, and Zara and Kofi found themselves drifting. Calls became less frequent, messages shorter. Love had never been the issue. Timing, expectations, and the weight of family traditions loomed over them like storm clouds refusing to part. Kofi returned to Lagos with renewed determination. He took Zara to a quiet art gallery, a place she loved. The walls were adorned with vibrant paintings of African landscapes, each telling a silent story. I don't want us to lose this, he said softly, taking her hand. Zara exhaled, a grip tightening. Neither do I, but I don't know how we keep it without sacrificing something important. Kofi hesitated. He had spent years proving himself in the business world, but in love he felt uncertain. What if I move here permanently, basing my business in Lagos instead of Accra? Zara's heart swelled at the offer, but fear crept in. Would you really be happy leaving your family, your home? Kofi's silence was loud. He wanted to promise her the world, but he knew that love built on self denial rarely thrived. Chapter 12. Kofi sat in his Lagos hotel room, staring at his phone. His mother had called 3 times already. He knew what she wanted to say, what she would remind him of. The weight of legacy, of tradition, of expectations he had carried since birth. When he finally picked up, her voice was gentle but firm. Kofi, my son, I see that you love her. But love is not just about the heart, it is also about the home. Will she embrace our ways? Will her family embrace ours? He sighed. Mama, Zara is strong, kind, and willing to learn. Isn't that enough? His mom exhaled. Maybe. But does she know what it means to be a Ghanaian wife? To kneel and serve at family gatherings, to respect our elders, to carry the weight of an extended family. Kofi didn't have an answer, not because Zara wasn't respectful, but because their love had never been built on customs. It was built on choice. Meanwhile, Zara faced her own battles. Her father, Chief Omolayo, sat across from her in the family home, his brows furrowed in deep thought. I have nothing against Kofi, but marriage is not just about feelings, he began. You are my daughter, my pride, a Nigerian woman raised with dignity and strength. Is he ready to be a Nigerian son in law? To uphold our name? Zara folded her arms. Daddy, you always taught me that love is about finding a partner who respects and supports you. Kofi does that. Her father leaned forward. And when challenges come, when families collide, will he stay? His words lingered long after their conversation ended. She didn't doubt Kofi's love, but she wondered, were they strong enough to withstand everything between them? That evening, Kofi surprised Zara with a trip to Badagry. The coastal town, rich with history and the weight of the past, seemed like the perfect place for clarity. As they sat beneath the mighty Baobab tree, Kofi held her hand. If we choose each other, what do we sacrifice? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Zara closed her eyes, inhaling the salty sea breeze. Maybe it's not about sacrifice, Kofi. Maybe it's about choosing the life we want together. But even as she said it, she knew that choice would come at a price. Chapter 13. Zara had always known what she wanted. Journalism had been her dream since she was a little girl, writing in her notebook under her mother's watchful eye. Now that dream had led her to an opportunity she couldn't ignore. South Africa was calling. When she told Kofi, he was silent for a long time. How long? He finally asked. They want me for a year, but I negotiated 6 months, she said, watching his expression carefully. His jaw tightened. 6 months is a long time, Zara, she sighed. And love without trust is a short road. Kofi looked away, running a hand through his hair. It's not about trust, it's about distance, about what happens when two people start living separate lives. Zara took his hands. Then let's find a way. It was Kofi's turn to make a decision. His business in Accra was thriving, expanding beyond what he had imagined. But Lagos had possibilities too. One evening, as they walked along the Victoria Island shoreline, he turned to her. What if I divide my time between both cities? A few months in Accra, a few in Lagos? Zara smiled, though uncertainty flickered in her eyes. It's a start. They didn't know if it would work. They only knew that love was worth the risk. Chapter 14. 6 months passed in a blur. Zara thrived in South Africa. The newsroom challenged her, forced her to grow. She covered groundbreaking stories, met people who reshaped her view of the world. Kofi built bridges in Lagos, slowly expanding his business. He found himself looking at apartments, imagining a future where he could stay longer. But it wasn't easy. There were days when the silence between them stretched too long, days when time zones and schedules created a distance wider than any ocean. There were moments of doubt. Was love enough? One night during a long call, Zara confessed, some days, I don't know if we're winning this battle, Kofi. His voice was steady. Then let's stop seeing it as a battle. We're not fighting to stay together. We're choosing to. And so they chose. Again and again. Kofi's family eventually softened. His mother saw the way his eyes lit up when he spoke about Zara. Zara's father too relented, though not without reminding her, love is easy when things are good. The real test is when things fall apart. Kofi waited until Zara's return to make his next move. Under the sprawling branches of a baobab tree in Accra, He knelt before her, the city lights flickering in the distance. Marry me, Zara, not just in Lagos, not just in Accra, but wherever life takes us. Tears filled her eyes. Yes, Kofi, 1,000 times, yes. Chapter 15. Their wedding was more than a union. It was a tapestry woven with the colors of two cultures. In Lagos, they held a traditional Yoruba engagement. Zara, adorned in shimmering aso-oke, knelt before Kofi's parents, honoring the Ghanaian way. In Accra, they had their church wedding, the air filled with the sound of drums and laughter, vibrant kente fabric swaying with every movement. It was a celebration of love that refused to be confined by borders. During the reception, Kofi's mother pulled Zara aside and smiled. You remind me of the Baobab tree, strong, rooted, and full of life. Take care of my son. Zara blinked back tears and nodded. I will. Later that night, as they sat on the beach, Zara leaned against Kofi's shoulder. We made it, she whispered. Kofi kissed her forehead. Yes, my love, and this is just the beginning. As the waves crashed against the shore, the whispers of the baobab tree echoed in the wind, stories of love, resilience, and a future yet to be written. The end!